look, we've been treated very unfairly by Canada. We've been treated very unfairly by Mexico.
He's talking about the tariffs.
Very unfairly by every country all over the world. The European Union is horrible, horrible. And
he's also going to talk about the peace deal.
And I have a choice.
Apparently, there's a Ukraine peace deal already worked out.
Down the road, maybe a long way, but we owe $36 trillion, and we're going to get it back. We're the biggest, we're the best, and I'm very optimistic. I have to tell you, I'm very optimistic about the country. Much more optimistic this way than if I did it the easy way. Yeah. I could have done it the easy way. I could have coasted. Biden left us a mess. He left us tremendous inflation, tremendously high costs of products. He left us a mess, but he also left us a mess with millions of people that poured into our country that are criminals. Millions of those people happen to be criminals.
I don't know what the situation is with the tariffs, but I'm curious about it. Because last I heard, it was just like a tariff war. Everybody's tariffing each other back and forth.
Situation, and we're changing it. But one of the things we're changing is we're going to make our country really wealthy again. We're going to bring our jobs back. Right now, we're like a chicken that's being plucked at from all over the world. We're not going to let that happen anymore.
Mr. President,
but very importantly, and I said it, Ukraine, ceasefire. Ukraine, ceasefire. Just agreed to a little while ago. Now we have to go to Russia and hopefully President Putin will agree.
They agreed to a ceasefire?
And we can get this show on the road. We can get.
Hopefully President Putin will agree. So, sounds like so far he has not agreed. I don't know if he has.
I get the reports. And they're not American soldiers. They're Ukrainian and they're Russian.
The last I heard of it, that about anything coming from Russia, was that the terms that he was putting forth in order to have a peace treaty or in order to have a ceasefire or just like to end the war, he said, or at least the Russians were saying, that are going to be so completely unreasonable that they don't see the West or Ukraine or anybody else conceding to that, because they're going to be like, you're going to either give us everything we want or we're not stopping anything. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know how far they're willing to go, but at this point, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because, you know, if he decides to just stop now, I think the big thing that Putin's more concerned about is his credibility. And this is like an existential crisis for him, kind of. Because if he stops, then it's like he kind of gave in to the demands of the West, right? But he's like, I think he wants to leave like a legacy before he leaves, and restoring the former might of the former Soviet Union or something. Tough to say. I don't know. We'll have to see.
But people are being killed outside of that. People are being killed in the cities as things explode throughout the cities. And we want to get that war over with. So I think it's a very big. I think it's a big difference between the last visit you saw at the Oval Office and this. So that's a total ceasefire. Ukraine has agreed to it, and hopefully Russia will agree to it. We're going to meet with them later on today and tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to wipe out a deal. But I think the ceasefire is very important. If we can get Russia to do it, that'll be great. If we can't, we just keep going on, and people are going to get killed. Lots of people.
Is Zelensky invited back to the White House?
Sure, absolutely.
Mr. President, you mentioned the ups and downs in the stock market. You said it'll go up, it'll go down.
Zelensky's still welcome back to the White House.
Policies right now bear any
That's good.
responsibility for the turmoil we're seeing this week.
Biden gave us a horrible economy. He gave us horrible inflation, and I think the market was going to go very, very bad. If anything, I have a lot of very smart people, friends of mine, and great businessmen. They're now investing because of what I'm doing. Because long term, what I'm doing is making our country strong again, financially strong, militarily strong, and strong if we want to get away. Remember this, we have wars. When I left, we had no wars. We didn't have Ukraine and Russia. We didn't have October 7th. We didn't have that disaster that took place with the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And you look at what's happened there. We caught the major terrorist, which Biden wouldn't have caught. Why didn't he catch him? I caught him 5 weeks into the presidency. I caught the man responsible for Abigail, and he's going to pay hell right now. He's a
they arrested the individual that they said was the mastermind.
He gave you high prices. You couldn't buy bacon. You couldn't buy anything. And also, I inherited a situation with eggs. The price of eggs was through the roof. Well,
I don't know
now
what it
the
is.
price of
Everybody
eggs
always
have
talks
come
about
down a
eggs.
lot.
That's like the first thing
Interest
everyone
rates have
talks
come
about.
down. Gasoline prices have come down. It's all coming down. It's all a beautiful thing. I can do it the right way
Yeah.
or the wrong way. We're doing it the right way. And I have tremendous confidence in this country and the people of this country. Tremendous confidence. Much more so than if I sat back for 4 years and had a good time
And so
in the Oval
the
Office.
FBI and the
I wanna
Department of
look-
Justice said that
As a
they
function of
had
the great
arrested
policies of
Mohammed
Trump and his administration,
Sharifullah,
and as an act
who's
of faith in
described as an
America,
ISIS-K
Tesla is going to
operative
double
that
vehicle
was
output in the United States within the next 2 years.
involved heavily in the bombing of Abbey
By the way,
Gate.
he makes one car. This one
So I
I
don't
don't
know.
understand. This one I don't want, but that's okay. Without a steering wheel, it comes out next year, right?
Yes.
Explain that, please.
Yes,
So they're gonna talk
well,
about
I believe
Tesla.
The Cybercab starts production
Is there anything else?
in Texas next year, and it's self-driving. We have so much confidence in the self-driving nature of it that it'll actually not have a steering wheel. It will not have pedals. It'll either self-drive or not drive at all, but it'll self-drive.
President Trump,
And I'm going to pass on that particular.
before this event today, when's the last time you bought a new car?
Wow. Well, I buy a lot for through my children because they run the company now. I used to buy a lot. I haven't bought a new car in a long time.
What was your first car?
The only thing I know is the Beast. I got a big car with very thick windows and thick side panels.
Is that going electric?
Yeah, he's talking about the presidential limousine,
Actually,
the
I bought
Beast.
This one for Kai.
Do you remember your first car?
The Ontario premier calling you and giving you his decision about the electricity surcharge, and you said you were pleased about that. Will you make a different decision now about the tariffs on Canada, where you
Well, now I'm
reduce it?
looking at that, but probably so. Yeah.
Here we go.
He was a gentleman. He was a gentleman. Look, I said it before. We give Canada $200 billion a year. We subsidize Canada between all of the things we give them and trade. We give them. We don't have to have cars made in Canada. We don't have to have lumber from Canada. We have tremendous lumber. We have tremendous trees. All I have to do
Tremendous.
is,
We have
unfreeze
tremendous.
them from some of
Everything
the
is very
restrictions that were
tremendous.
put on. I can do that with an executive order. We don't need energy. We have more energy than anybody else in the world. So we spend $200 billion.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely do have a lot of
Subsidizing
natural
Canada. We
resources
don't
here
have
that
to
are
do that.
untapped right now.
And frankly, the way that gets solved is
That's the one thing that is for sure like provable is we do have a lot of natural resources. We got natural gas, we have oil, we have I mean, there's tons of ways to access energy here. We just have there's been so much red tape for accessing it because you have to get permits from the government in order to even set up in a place. And over the past, and this happened during Obama from 2008 till 2016, and then it happened again, for the past 4 years. Just because typically, one of the things you always see is when a Democrat gets in office, which is odd because that Richard Nixon was actually the person that founded the Environmental Protection Agency as a conservative, which is kind of interesting. Considering like how much has changed since then. But typically whenever you see a Democrat in office, at least over the past like 25 years here, it was very standard that they would increase the level of bureaucracy and the difficulty in getting permits on federal land or permits to drill for oil or to frack for natural gas or to do a number of different things to extract resources from the earth, which is, why that's how you're supporting the energy infrastructure for the United States. And that's always been something that's been pretty standard across the board. I mean, really, there's only been 2 Democrat presidents since 2020 or since 2000. It's just been Barack Obama and Joe Biden. So, that's just kind of been like the trend for the past 2 folks. Is they made it more difficult to access natural resources for companies. And because it's just like there's a lot of environmental protection stuff that they're usually part of the agenda is a big environmental protection thing. And so they put a lot of red tape and a lot of bureaucracy in place where they just deny permits in an effort to, at least from their perspective, they think what they're doing is protecting the environment. Now, I don't think that necessarily means that accessing those things is damaging the environment. I think that I think it's very nuanced, and I do think that the more pressing matter right now is we have a significant weakness when it comes to energy independence. And the main reason is because we import a lot of natural resources that we could be accessing here, and we import all kinds of stuff. And we got to get energy independent. We got to get to it. We got to get the power grid to a place where it's maybe not necessarily so fragile. And, you know, backups. I think nuclear power is probably something that we should really start looking into. The nuclear power plants that they can build today are completely different from, like, you know, the nuclear power plants at like Fukushima. You know, they're very different from all these other power plants that are very well known around the world that, you know, I think it's 9 Mile or 3 Mile Island. Yeah. Very different from that. Like the technology is so good. There's so many fail safes. Like it's very unlikely unless like people start, you know, bombing that it's going to have any issues. It's pretty safe. It's pretty damn safe. So, and it's also like the most effective means of generating energy. We just have to find a way to dispose of the nuclear material after they, you know, need to dispose of it. That's just what I've been told from a lot of people that are far smarter than me, and I trust their opinions. Like friends of mine that work in the industry.
Canada should honestly become our 51st state. We wouldn't have a northern border problem. We wouldn't have a tariff problem.
He still wants them to become a 51st state.
They spend very little, as you know, the least of almost anybody on military, and we spend the most of anybody on military.
It would be interesting
a great military. I rebuilt
to have a
the military
51st state.
my first time. We're going to have to rebuild it a little bit again. Not that much, but we're going to have to rebuild it a little bit again. But Canada would be great as our cherished 51st state. You wouldn't have to worry about borders. You wouldn't have to worry about anything. And by the way, Canada is very highly taxed, and we're very low tax. We're considered a low tax nation.
That'd be a huge ordeal. I mean, there'd be so much stuff that would be involved in that.
Canada would pay much less tax. It makes a lot of sense. And by the way, when you take away that artificial line that looks like it was done with a ruler, and that's what it was. Some guy sat there years ago, and they said, "Rah." Well, when you take away that, and you look at that beautiful formation of Canada and the United States, there is no place anywhere in the world that looks like that.
That would increase the size of the United States by so much.
If you add Greenland, that's even.
I mean,
If you add Greenland.
Okay? I'm going to look at this. I'm going to make a decision. Do you want to hear what my decision? Okay. What's your best of these cars? What do you think?
Well, the car that I drive is the Model S.
Well.
Which is that one?
That red one in the
I
middle.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's zero.
Let's skip that part. Let's see.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mr. President talks about some of the violence that's been going on around the country at dealerships. Some say they should be labeled domestic terrorists.
I will do that. I'll do it. I'm going to stop them. We catch anybody.
Oh yeah, they're talking about the
because they're
Tesla,
harming a
the
great
Tesla
American.
dealerships that have been getting
You know,
attacked.
I've stuck up for the NFL. I've stuck up for a lot of American companies and other companies, but American companies.
Yeah, because
I do
Elon's
a very big favor for the NFL. I do favors for all. When you heard
there's been attacks all over the place, and like in protest of Tesla, because there's a lot of people that don't like Elon.
Unable to do. When you do that,
Whether or not some of that is coordinated or otherwise, I would say it's probably being coordinated on some level. It has to
We
be.
already know who some of them are. We're going to catch them. And they're bad guys. They're the same guys that screw around with our schools and universities. The same garbage. And no, we're going to catch them. And let me tell you, you do it to Tesla and you do it to any company, we're going to catch you and you're going to go through hell.
Mr. President,
what do you tell
your
CEOs
comments-
tonight at the Business Roundtable, especially with the
Well, I
regarding
have a
tariffs?
roundtable to make it a little while. I just consider this much more important because I want to buy one of these. My whole staff is so excited because I told them they're going to safely use them, and they can't believe it. So Margot, wherever you are, Margot, she's going to use it. They're all going to be using it.
Margot.
They're going to have a good time using it. And if I can, oh, there you are, Margot. Look at Margot's right there. What are you, a member of the press now? I think she's become a member of the press. Takes great pictures. What do you think of it, Margot? Do you like the idea?
I love it.
Okay, good.
We're gonna have fun.
They're very happy.
That's Margot
The
McCarthy.
other day not ruling
She is a special assistant to the president and communications advisor.
Secretary said there
Country is
wouldn't
going
be
to
one.
boom, just so you
Well,
know.
just specifically on
Yeah.
the recession.
Yeah.
Do you
I
think
this
there will be a
country-
recession?
I don't see it at all. I think this country is going to boom. But as I said, I can do it the easy way or the hard way. The hard way to do it.
Yeah,
is
according to
exactly what I'm doing,
Polymarket,
but
it
the
says that
results are
I
gonna
think
be
like
20 times
33% of the country think there's going to be a recession.
And remember, Trump is always right. Right?
And what do you say to
If you
Americans?
Where
look
is
at
it?
what I've said over the last 10 years, Trump has been right all the time. This is the
See if it says anything new about
way
it.
to do it. We're going to make America great again. You know, to make it great, you have to have jobs, you have to have factories, you have to have. I look at some of the things that, like this last administration. He was the worst president in the history of our country. Nothing was happening. Nothing. He had no idea what was going on. Our country went to hell. And then to
There's literally
allow
Polymarket
millions
on
of
everything,
people to
but
come in
I'm
that
trying
are
to see.
prisoners and mental institution patients and all of the things. Gang members, drug lords. We're searching them all down now, trying to get them out of our country. And we're going to do that. But on the financial end and the economic end, what we're doing is, to me, it's the most exciting. Our country will be greater than ever before, and it won't take too long.
And what's your message to Americans right now who are worried about the stock market? What's your message to them?
Yeah, so I think Polymarket said that they're, according to JP Morgan's chief economist, Polymarket's recession odds are at 40% for 2025. So Polymarket is predicting that there is going to be a U.S. recession in 2025 and it's saying a 40% chance. Now, that's not, obviously, take that for what you will. That's like a lot of people are gambling on that.
As they watch it.
But we'll have to see.
Let's go see the Cybertruck. I did buy one of these.
Would Blade Runner drive? That was the design idea.
What kind of truck would Blade Runner drive? Yeah, Blade Runner's a good movie. The first one's a good movie, and Blade Runner 2049 is a good movie.
Is there any thinking on your future at the company as we're talking about Tesla? I'm wondering what your thinking is with leading the company going forward.
Yeah. I'm CEO of Tesla, and
We should.
yeah.
Any more plans
Oh,
of
we get
additional
your
vehicles
thoughts on
besides
the
the ones
market.
you have now?
Well,
New
we got
models?
the Cybercab coming out next year,
The
which
one
is
with no steering wheel. You're gonna buy
Cyber
one of those?
cab.
We'll pass.
Yeah.
We'll pass.
yeah.
So, Mr. President, when
A lot
you
of these
look at the
vehicles are very
market
similar to
going
like that movie Fifth Element.
see it
Doesn't
going.
concern me. I think some people are going to make great deals by buying stocks and bonds and all the things they're buying. I think we're going to have an economy that's a real economy, not a fake economy. It was a fake economy. They were putting in all government jobs. You see what happened last month? We had more real jobs, and government jobs are way down. That's going to continue. Those are real jobs.
So that's the reason why he's saying that. And like, regardless of how you feel about him, like the fact is that creating government jobs, the government doesn't produce anything. The government doesn't produce money, doesn't make money for people. The government takes money from taxes, and that's how it pays the employees, right? So businesses create jobs, businesses create wealth and raise capital. And that's why he's saying, fake economy, fake stuff, because the one thing that was provable based on the last 4 years was that there was a significant increase in federal workforce and federal jobs and government jobs across the entire board. And that was just like they were adding new government jobs all the time, new jobs in the federal government, because then they could say that they created new jobs or that there was this many jobs created or whatever, because they were in control of that, because they were government jobs. But that's not actually creating a job. That's not actually creating jobs, because at the end of the day, like, yeah, you may be paying somebody, but you're not the government. Like I said, the government doesn't create things. The government takes money from taxpayers, and that's how they pay their employees, and they don't actually create stuff, right? Businesses create stuff, and then the government usually buys it from them with money from the taxpayers. And obviously it's a lot more complicated than that. I don't think that there were no jobs created from like private companies, but I do think that the job market creation for other businesses outside of the government was down before, and it's been I think at least it is provable that the number of federal jobs has been cut significantly. I don't necessarily know how many private jobs have been created since the new administration took over. Couldn't be that many because it's only been like 2.5 months. But all that stuff about government jobs being created doesn't really necessarily mean an increase in jobs. That is accurate because, like I said, the government doesn't make things. It just taxes people, and then it takes the money from taxes to pay their employees. So
those are jobs that keep the country going. You can't have all government jobs. You have no income to pay the workers.
yeah, because they get paid with taxpayer money.
That was the other problem.
So, and
President
that's just
Trump,
pure
protest
facts.
leader
It's not like,
from
regardless of how
Columbia
you feel about
University
any of
that
these
the
people.
administration is moving to deport, and he said that his arrest is going to be the first of many. How many?
I think we ought to get them all out of the country. They're troublemakers. They're agitators. They don't love our country. We ought to get them the hell out. I think that guy, we ought to get him. I heard his statements too. They were plenty bad. And I think we ought to get him the hell out of the country. I watched him. I watched tapes. Specifically, I watched tapes. And
They're talking about the people that are
have
protesting in support of Hamas
and you can have the rest of them.
in college
Let 'em go to
campuses.
school, let them learn. Columbia used to be a good school. Now it's been over.
Now, key thing to remember is they're talking about deporting a guy that has been like promoting pro-Hamas rhetoric and stuff like that at a university. That guy, I know people talk about getting upset about the First Amendment and stuff like that. The First Amendment is covered for people who are citizens. If you're a citizen, then yeah, you have the First Amendment. You can say whatever you want. If you're here from a foreign country and you got a green card and you're working here, you're not covered by the First Amendment because you're not a citizen. That does not apply to you, right? And if you're coming here and you're a foreign national and you're here on a green card and you're spreading like dissenting stuff towards America, what do you expect? You think that if you went to Germany and you had a green card and you were like an American citizen and you were rolling around spreading information that's counter to what the German government wants you to be saying, yeah, they could absolutely deport you. Now, granted, they have a different constitution than we do, but if they're like, hey, this guy is just like, kind of bagging on us here in this country, or they're spreading information or saying things that are counter to what we believe as a German people, they're not a citizen. They could easily just be like, yeah, you're done. You're going away. You can go back to your own country and do that there. So I think that's justifiable. I do think that it's at the end of the day, like if you're a citizen, yeah, you should be able to say whatever you want. Freedom of speech should be supremely protected, whether you agree with that speech or not. But if you're not a citizen, it doesn't apply to you, does not apply to you. You might want to like lay low if you're not a citizen and you're here in the United States, or any other country, like regardless of what country you're immigrating to. If you're there temporarily and you're trying to become a citizen, you got to do whatever it is that they want you to do until you become a citizen, and then you are covered by all of these things. But you're not covered by the, you don't have like the First Amendment, Second Amendment, all these other amendments. That doesn't, you're not covered by all that stuff until you're a citizen of the United States.
Run because of bad leadership. That's what happens. Happens to countries, and it happens to universities, and it happens to companies. And I don't want it to happen to a guy that did nothing wrong. He did everything right because he did a great company. But what he did by coming into government to help government, taking them out, will make it much stronger. The country will be much stronger, but it's going to really be stronger economically. And when you look at what we're doing, I've been called by so many companies. Yesterday, as you know, I had a meeting with some of the biggest tech companies in the world.
You had a big meeting with a bunch of CEOs.
IBM was there. We had a lot of them. Michael Dell was there. We had a lot of great companies. Hewlett Packard, and
Hewlett Packard.
All they're talking about is investing in this country. They want to be sure. Don't forget, they're looking down the road 10 years and 15 years. They want to make sure we have a strong country. They're all coming in. As you know, Apple. Tim Cook, he said that he's going to invest $500 billion in the United States. He never did that before. He invested in China. He's got his plants in China, and now he's got them going to be building them in the United States. And if I didn't have victory in that election, he wouldn't be doing it. And if I didn't say what I'm saying, and I'm being very honest, and it's much more difficult than just sitting around and having a great time. It's a very glamorous position if you want to do that. We could have kept it, but eventually bad things would have happened. This way, good things. I'm very optimistic about the country. I think we're going to have the greatest markets we've ever had, and it's going to be really fueled by what we're doing. You got to see these companies yesterday.
We'll
They're
have to see.
investing billions and trillions. They're investing trillions.
I don't know
of
enough
dollars.
about economics or economics to like
10 cents.
know how this stuff
Do you
works. I'm
talk
just kind
to
of like
Vladimir
sitting back
Putin
watching it
about this
play out.
ceasefire deal? Do you think you need to have a conversation with him to
Yeah,
get the Russians
I'll
to
talk
agree?
to Vladimir Putin. Yeah,
When will
I
you
want to
talk
get.
to
Look, that's the other. It takes two to tango, as they say, right?
It certainly
So
does.
Hopefully, he'll also agree, and I really think that would be 75% of the way. The rest is getting it documented and, negotiating land positions, etc.
So you'll talk to him this week?
That's gonna be a
about
tough
the
part,
deal?
negotiating
And when
land
you anticipate
positions.
meeting him in
Ceasefire
person?
in place on the Ukrainian side. How close do you think then you are to a total ceasefire with
Well,
the...
I hope it'll be over the next few days. I'd like to see. I know we have a big meeting with Russia tomorrow, and some great
Tomorrow
conversations
meaning
hopefully
today.
will ensue. The people
Tomorrow
have
meeting
done a great
today,
job. Marco
Thursday,
Rubio's
March
been great.
13th.
Steve Witkoff's been great. Michael Waltz. They're all, every one of them. They've really stepped up. They are into it. They want to see two things.
They are into it.
By far, number one is death. The people that aren't citizens of our country, but they're people, just like you. They're people, and we want to stop. And we also don't want to give billions and hundreds of billions of dollars away. We're in there for $350 billion. And there was no reason this war would have never happened if I was president. So it's a very sad thing. Thank you all very much. I love Tesla.
Which one did you buy?
He just said Tesla. Why did he say Tesla? I love Tesla. Oh my gosh.